social work in Trinity. So I did that and did a few years in child protection following that, and then moved on to safeguarding, and then moved into the area of mental health, where I kind of settled down for the last 6 years. So that's kind of what piqued my interest in doing a master's, and I've kind of been searching for what I wanted to do it in, and then this course popped up.
Amazing. Not the stereotypical kind of counselling and psychotherapy background, I suppose, that would lead you in. So why this master's? Why CBT?
I've always had an interest in doing a master's, and I looked in different psychotherapy type courses and things like that, but it just didn't seem the right fit for my personality. So I kind of was glad that I took the time to kind of get a feel for what it was that interested me and what would suit me personally. I did a kind of course within work where I am the supervisor for behavioural family therapy. So that kind of really settled me down into, I like that style of work and that style of kind of, I suppose, behaviour and that kind of connection to that. And then I settled on the CBT. As I said, I'd kind of been looking at different courses in CBT, but none of them just seemed to suit or work with my work or lifestyle, or get me what I wanted when I came out of it. So yeah. I jumped at the chance when this came up.
Then there was a few things that you found when researching the courses and finding this one that they did fit into what you wanted them.
Yeah, so there's some other courses you wouldn't be able to practice CBT straight away afterwards. There was some that I would have to do some kind of postgraduate certificate, which would take up time and money as well, and then going on to do another degree. So this was kind of, I was able to go in, do this, and then come out and be able to practice while I'm studying as well, which was great.
Great, very good. That's brilliant. Thank you. And Liz, was it a similar kind of search route for you, or how did you get into the MSc?
Yeah. I mean, I guess my background's a little bit different to Shauna's, so more sort of counselling psychotherapy. I kind of got into the field about sort of 10 years ago. So I did my undergrad degree with PCI, and since then I've been working in a counselling centre in private practice, which sort of has a focus on CBT. So a lot of the clients that were coming in were sort of looking specifically for CBT. And I found myself doing quite a bit of sort of CPD related workshops in CBT, and I got more and more interested in it and found it very helpful, and wanted to kind of get a better sort of a deeper level of skill, I think, at how to be able to sort of use it effectively. So that's when I started sort of looking around for a master's course, because I thought that's what I needed. I'd been wanting to do a master's for a while. I just wasn't really sure where I wanted to focus, so it took me a little while to sort of get to that place, but then I started investigating and looking at different courses, and in terms of sort of selecting one, so at first I didn't know PCI were offering one, so I actually had signed up to do something else, which also sounded interesting, but when the PCI one came up, it just sort of fitted a bit more with what I was looking for, because I wanted to do sort of the pure CBT rather than, say, counselling and psychotherapy with CBT, because I'd obviously already done the undergrad degree. So it sort of really fitted well in that regard. So that's, and also of course I'd studied with PCI before, so it's very familiar, and yeah, it was nice to be able to come back again. So that's kind of how I ended up joining.
Very good. So that's really interesting, because as you say, there was obviously a lot of research in there, and that you had kind of almost chosen a different path, if you like, really. So can I ask, what was it that swayed you towards PCIs, besides the familiarity, if there's another reason why, or CBT masters?
Sure. It was, to be honest, it was a bit of a dilemma for me, because I had signed up and everything and I was happy, but then it kind of raised a number of questions for me around, what's going to be the best fit in the long term. And when I sort of did all the pros and cons, I kind of realized that the counselling and psychotherapy part of the other course, which very useful, very helpful, I felt I'd already done, you see, in my undergrad, or that there might, of course, I don't know for sure what I would have been taught, but I suspect that there would have been maybe some crossover there. So I thought I might be better off focusing more on the pure CBT side of things. But also, I won't lie, the other course wanted me to do exams, and I'm not keen on exams.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I prefer coursework. So yeah, that was another key factor as well. So there are a number of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a specific focus on CBT, and I know Shauna, a while ago, you said that it was that specific kind of skills-based stuff, you know, that kind of got you interested and leaned towards PCI's course.
Yeah, the focus on practice as well, and being in practice and the doing. So you were like practicing while learning, which is really important, putting your skills, you know, into use straight away, rather than doing something, learning about it, and then, you know, having to wait before you could utilize your skills. So that was really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, Shauna, too. I think obviously learning stuff from textbooks and everything is very valuable, but actually having the opportunity to really sort of use it in your work so that you're doing both things in parallel, there's a great benefit to that.
So how have you found then with that clinical element? You know, because obviously it is a requirement to do your 200 hours, you know, with the clinical element. How have you found integrating what you're learning in the classroom to actual real life clients with that practice?
You want to go first, Shauna?
I don't mind, go ahead, Liz. Yeah.
Sorry, did you say yes or?
Go ahead.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I didn't hear correctly. Okay, so integrating, I think when it comes to things like the tools, the techniques, the psychometrics, I found that all really great, and I've been able to sort of incorporate it quite well. And there's been some really good experience with all of that. In terms of integrating, let's say, more specific CTSR related, you know, working according to the structure of that takes more getting used to. I think that's more of an adaptation. So it's kind of, so I guess, you know, a mixed bag of experience in that regard. But I've found that the skills in particular, like using the whiteboard, getting much more visual with clients, they really, really love that. And it's really helped a lot in bringing clarity and insight and moving things forward, I think, in a proactive way. So I particularly like the cost benefit analysis as well. I keep bringing that into the sessions too. I think you find you get focused in, don't you, on one in particular that's kind of becomes a favorite. So that's my current favorite. It might change next year, but so yeah, that's been my experience.
Excellent. And have you found anything, I suppose, that you've favorite, Shauna, or anything that you found that you've learned from the?
Yeah, I've learned loads, and even that, like, kind of going back over the different disorders, because I work in a psychiatric service, so it's kind of renewed my interest in the learning about it, and then being able to apply these skills, which has been great for our service users. The most challenging thing for me is that I'm a dual role now at the moment. So that's the trickiest thing for me, is being a social worker and then also being a student CBT therapist. So that's the most challenging thing for me. But when I can do the CBT with the clients that I have, it's brilliant to be able to bring that skills and make kind of, you know, bring the clients forward. It's been really, really a great experience. I have to say, I've had really positive experience with a lot of service users that I wouldn't have necessarily got to have if I wasn't doing the masters.
Amazing. Do you find that that's really interesting, having that dual role, which I suppose is, you know, it's a given really, isn't it, when you're in a course like this and working full time? Do you find that the skills that you're learning are transferable into your other role as well?
Yeah, 100%. Like with my other role, it's, you know, various different things, but you can definitely bring in elements of it as well. You know, I would work with a lot of domestic abuse survivors and things like that, so you can bring in some of the skills there. And yeah, it's been really great to have additional kind of skills like the cost benefit analysis. You can throw them in there and different things. But yeah, it's been really useful.
Amazing. That's great to hear. And Liz, you mentioned the CTSR and things there, and, you know, I suppose, for in case anybody's watching that doesn't, of
course, yeah,
isn't familiar with it, you know, do you mind, and I don't mean to put you in the spot, but do you mind just kind of explaining very briefly as to what that means, and maybe even how it comes into something like your clinical supervision, possibly?
Sure. I can't actually remember what the 4 letters stand for as an acronym, I'm afraid. but basically, I kind of refer to it as the Bible, really, for CBT. It sort of it incorporates 12 key characteristics or skills which we learn and then bring into our work to use within the session, ranging from at the beginning, where you're setting an agenda with a client, to collaborating together and eliciting then the thoughts and the feelings and the behaviors, and bringing in then the different tools and techniques. So basically the key characteristics, and then homework, of course, as well.
12 items that measures all the different areas to cover within the session. And
right.
With that, would say, how have you found, because I mean, you mentioned as well, you were in counselling psychotherapy previously. So how have you found that approach has differed? Because it's quite CBT specific.
It is, yes.
And different to what you were used to before.
Yeah, so I suppose my initial training would have been more person-centered, humanistic. So that's the foundation. And with that, you tend to sort of follow the client more in terms of where they want to go. So this is a bit different in terms of the sort of the structure that is brought into the session. So that's kind of been a bit more of a transition, moving away from that way of working to a more sort of structured way of working. So that's the biggest difference, I would say, for me, in terms of what I have done and what I'm focusing on now.
Brilliant. And was it difficult to, I suppose, integrate into the new style, if I can say it that way, of supervision with that as well?
Yes, initially I think it took some getting used to, because you have this tendency to sort of get pulled back to the, I suppose, the way that you were initially taught. So there's always that with new learning, isn't there, sort of as you're getting used to something different, and transitioning into a new way of working. But it comes with time and practice, I think. And I suppose long term for me, I want to still have the humanistic side of things too, but to integrate them both in a way that's going to work best for the clients that I work with. So yeah, I think having a supervisor as well who focuses specifically on the CBT side of things has been good, because that's like putting then a different hat on. As soon as you go to work with that supervisor, you're kind of shifting specifically into that focus. So it's just kind of trying to balance the two and move from one to the other, I guess. I mean, at the same time, the humanistic side of things is within the CBT, with the collaboration and the empathy and forming the relationship. So, I mean, it's still part of it. It's more, I think, about the timekeeping within the session and the structure within the session. That's where it's a bit different.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. Thank you. And I suppose because that clinical element, and specifically the supervision, is such a huge part of the course, Shauna, how did you find actually sourcing a BABCP accredited supervisor and work with them?
Because my placement in the HFE, there was a few kind of hoops to jump through and do that. So I wanted to find somebody that would relate to the experience of working in a psychiatric service. So I was lucky enough to find a supervisor who had just retired, but was still with the BABCP and was a CBT therapist, but had come from the same, services that I'm working in, which I found that really, really helpful. So giving that understanding of where I was coming from, different undergraduate degree. She was originally a nurse, but yeah, it was great to have that kind of familiarity of what I was experiencing. So I definitely would put the effort into looking into a supervisor. Like, I had conversations with a few other people as well, so I didn't necessarily settle down with the first supervisor I kind of reached out to and touched base with. It was really important to me that they kind of had an understanding of the service in which I work.
Very good. Very good. So did you have to go through a couple, or?
No, I just reached out to see their availability because, and touched base with some people, and then found this lady through work, and kind of, we agreed then with our supervision contract and all that. But yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. And how did you find, I suppose, the clinical placement element? I mean, you mentioned there you work in the HSC, and there's a few hoops to jump. Is it something that you're able now to do, to get the hours in, the client hours in, okay, within that organization?
Oh, yeah. The consultant and the team I'm working on are crying out for any kind of talk therapy. We're kind of a deprived team, so the fact that I'm able to offer CBT is, the team are really happy with that. So I'm definitely getting the hours in and the referrals in. So yeah, there's no issue there.
Brilliant. That's great, guys. So you've both got, full-time jobs. You've both got lives, to put it simply. How do you find that kind of juggle of the busy life, the full-time job, and now the quite intense CBT masters? How do you find that kind of works together?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I chose PCI as well is that it was a weekend, kind of a month. It was the 2 days together, which I really liked. Other courses is 1 day a week. I'm commuting from Wexford, so I just had to block off that weekend rather than 1 day a week, which I find you might kind of get into it and then kind of parking it. And so I did find that was kind of a draw to me for doing the course. It was 1 weekend a month. I just block off, and that's where I'm attending the course. It is busy, I'm not going to lie and pretend that it's really easy and breezy, but I found that the payoff, and when I give the time to it, I'm delighted I'm doing it. But it's not necessarily very easy either to do the two, but it's worth it.
That's great. And how do you fit in the other stuff? I mean, the weekend a month is great, but there's the supervision, there's the personal therapy, there's the reading, obviously, and assignments and everything. How do you find you fit that in, Liz?
Well, I think the time that you need to give to the course, like it's an intense experience, I think, in terms of what, like any master's degree. I also loved the fact that it was being held on a weekend. That fitted really well for me. It meant that I could carry on working and then obviously do the course at the weekend. I suppose you can end up spending a lot of time at the weekend studying as well, so it's about trying to keep that balance. I like the essays, and I like to get really into them, so I tend to really get quite involved, probably too much, so the balance kind of went out the window at times, but I think certainly going forward into the next year, one of the things I've learned from this year is that when I took on the course, I didn't think enough about making space for it in a way that was going to fit with all the other pieces. I just kind of thought, right, I'm going to do it on top of everything else that I'm doing. And that worked to an extent until it started to feel, I've got too many balls that I'm juggling. So I'm now changing things a bit, and I'm making more space going into the second year so that I can juggle things a bit better. And I think that will work better. So that would be something that I would say to people, actually, to make sure that, you make adequate space for it so that you're not trying to divide yourself up into 10 different pieces.
Absolutely. Well done, you. That's hugely insightful, and hopefully, will bring its rewards next year for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Well done, you. So if I was to ask the question, I suppose, as to what the most enjoyable part so far has been for you in the last year, what would you say that would be?
I honestly think some of this, I know it's probably a bit cheesy, but the skills I've learned and applying them and getting wins with service users, that has been so enjoyable. That by doing this course has actually made a difference to the people I work with.
Yeah.
Seeing that happen and being in real life and all of that has been really rewarding. So I've really enjoyed that part. To think of the course, I think I don't know, there's modules. Every time we go to each module, we used to laugh. Every time we had a module, be like, oh, this is my favorite module. We used to tell all the lectures. So, you know, you just really get into it, whichever one you're doing. I do have a girl for the anxiety disorder, so those have been some of my favorite. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Great.
I agree. I think being able to sort of see people benefit from what we're learning in such a helpful way is so rewarding, to see the techniques really taking form. That I've loved that. I've really enjoyed that. I've also really enjoyed getting really deep into the topics as well, really exploring anxiety in all of the different areas, that social anxiety, general anxiety, all of the different areas. I found that really fascinating. I think the lecturers as well, they've all brought something different to the experience. They've got a lot of experience and knowledge, and I've really enjoyed learning from them. So I found it hugely beneficial and very rewarding.
That's amazing to hear. Like, it's real life stuff, isn't it? It's not,
Yeah.
As you said about the essays a while ago, like, it's not just reading stuff in the articles or books, it's real life stuff that you can see, very practically working in front of you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really, really
definitely.
good. So, like, you've definitely found, from what I'm hearing, that there's skills, there's practices, there's all sorts of techniques and strategies that you've learned that are new to you in the last 12 months. And you have had that chance to integrate it into your practice, use it in real life, and see how it works in real life, which is, in a nutshell, well, I'm telling my own story here now, it's in a nutshell why I got into it.
Right.
It is so real. It's just so impactful. That's amazing. And it's lovely to hear you have that experience as well.
Yeah, I think, just to add one more thing. So when I was saying before I got into the course, having certain knowledge about certain pieces, it feels like with the course, it's kind of pulled everything together in a way that sort of is more effective, I guess is the right word, so I've really loved that too, because it feels more cohesive as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Also really enjoyed with the people on the course, because everyone comes kind of from different backgrounds, like discipline, different learning, you learn a lot from the people within the room, and there's a space for that when you're doing your practices. You're learning a lot from your peers as well, which is really nice. And it's an intimate group, and it's really been really enjoyable.
Yeah.
So you guys have 13 in the group, is that right? 13?
I think it's 13, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how have you found, coming in with strangers at the beginning of the year, just kind of touching on that point there, Shauna, and, having gone through so much now and spending every weekend, not every weekend, one weekend a month together, maybe you spend every weekend together, I don't know, that's your business, but how have you found that whole setting, just even the number of you that are in classes and how the classroom dynamic works?
I think I initially found it maybe a bit, coming into, I suppose, a psychotherapy counselling course, coming from a background like social work, and most of the people on the course are from that, maybe have done courses in PCI. I had maybe brought my own stuff into the room, but once I was there a weekend, I'd settled in and kind of really realised that everyone had their own experiences, and that kind of added to it. But it's just, everybody gets on so well now, and you can really feel like you can just text anybody any questions. It really is a nice kind of group of people, and it's quite intimate as well, isn't it, Liz?
Totally, absolutely. I think we've bonded well together during the year, and I think the fact that we're there for a whole weekend means that you really get to spend a good chunk of time really getting to know people, and everybody's, there's a range of experiences and backgrounds, isn't there? So like, everybody brings something a bit different, and we get on very well. We've got our own WhatsApp group, where we're exchanging information, and we help each other out in that way too. So that's really a great support as well. So yeah.
We said for the last kind of couple of lectures, we feel sorry for them coming into our group, because we really kind of cohesed as a group, and kind of, so it's been really nice.
We're almost infiltrating the group. We're the outsiders. Isn't that lovely though? Because it's such support in that, I imagine, for you guys, that you're all there to back each other up, you know, when you need it, which is brilliant. And how have you found that from the college level, from PCI's level? Have you found that things have been kind of addressed that you've needed? Are you getting the support that you need?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've not had too many sort of issues or things that have come up that I've needed particular help with personally. I think, you know, there's people there to contact if you need help. That was sort of clearly mapped out at the very beginning in terms of the different roles that people have and who we need to go to for that help. So I think, yeah, that support is there if we need it. Would you agree, Shauna?
Yeah, and the lecturers are also approachable because it's not that lecture style theatre, you know, kind of talking down. It's very kind of, I'm not sure what the word is, but, you know, the lecturers are all very approachable. And if there's any issues, if you have any questions, you know, there's no issue in, you know, contacting them or like asking questions or anything like that. So that's been very,
Absolutely.
Brilliant. I suppose it's collegial, I suppose, isn't it? That kind of hierarchy isn't there outside of just, you know, who to contact if and when.
Yeah, and I think because a lot of the lecturers are they're in practice, so that makes a huge difference. Huge.
Sorry, Liz.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and any kind of questions that you do have, you know, if you email in and you're looking for anything, like they all get back to you really quickly and have lots of really great resources to share as well, which they distribute in the group, and that's a really good support too. So yeah, and there is no hierarchy, is there, Shauna? It's all very much kind of, we're all kind of working together on the same page, so that feels inclusive. Yeah.
Brilliant. So that sounds really, you know, like you've used the words approachable and, you know, supportive. It sounds friendly in, you know, just listening to what you're saying there, that it's not the lecture theatre style. It is that everybody's in it together, and, you know, it's not to catch you out or test you or anything. It's to genuinely just pass on that knowledge and that experience and, you know, get you guys learning what it is you need to learn.
Yeah, well, I suppose in the room itself, we're sat in a circle as opposed to, say, lines like you would have in a typical sort of lecture experience. So it's kind of, isn't it, sort of kind of
intimate in a way.
Intimate and cozy. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, the typical, when you think of a theatre lecture style, it is much more intimate, and we're all creatures of habit. We sit in our seats.
It's so funny. Yeah, we've all got our chairs. It's hilarious. Since the very first day that we met,
and we're assigned them.
We've all gone back to the same chair every time. Yeah, I remember coming in once and thinking, will I disrupt the harmony and sit somewhere else? But it didn't feel right.
Oh my goodness, we'll have to practice the CBT then, guys, and get a few habits broken next year when we get back in.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh, brilliant. That's so funny. Yeah, that's one now I've noted for the next time I have you guys next year. So
why did we say anything?
We shouldn't have said anything. Yeah.
Don't worry, it'll all be good. So if I can ask about kind of the academic side of things, has it been challenging in any way, shape or form for you to kind of address the academic writing side or the reading level? I mean, how have you found that side of things and the assessments or the assignments?
I have found that challenging getting back into the academic side of things because it's been nearly 10 years since I was in college, and the academic writing style is different to the one I would have done in college. The style when I would have worked in child protection, it's report writing, it's very, you know, factual based. So then it's trying to flare it back up for the academic side. So like that, I would, you know, say to somebody, if that is the case, giving yourself more time to be able to get back into the flow of that. And there is the supports there, and everybody's so approachable, you know, within the academic team and all that. So yeah, that has been definitely something I took for granted that I would find easy because I didn't have a problem with it before, but going from being in practice then going back to that. Whereas I think a lot more people, it's not that long since they've done their undergraduate degree. So yeah, it's a big chunk of time since I've, you know, done that, but it's great to flex that muscle again in the brain.
Yeah, it's good to know the brain cells are still there. They're still functioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 6 years since I did my undergrad, so there was that kind of, getting back into it again and switching on the brain cells. I like the academic stuff. I must admit that's a part that I enjoy. That there was obviously an initial like learning curve, but I feel like I'm back into the flow of it again. I'm lucky in the sense that so the writing style and everything is the same as it would have been for my undergrad. So I was able to sort of, take that knowledge forward. So that was a benefit for me. But yeah, there's loads of supports there. If someone's coming in with who's known a different style, then they just need to adapt to a new one. So it's not dramatically different, I don't think.
The lecturers were all very clear as well in setting out the assignments of what they were looking for, which was really helpful. Yeah. And like that reminding of like the academic writing style and things like that. So that was useful.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
There was a workshop on it too as well, so that was helpful.
Brilliant. So the challenges are identified and the resources are kind of allocated, excuse me, or made available to you if you do need them. There, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's really good. It's really interesting to hear, I suppose, like you say, they're the two of you with the different backgrounds, and that there are challenges for all of us with these things, aren't they? But it's just about kind of how we approach them, I suppose, and as you say, Shauna, what resources are available there to help out. So that's really good to know. So, I mean, a big part of, what you spoke about a wee while ago within the course itself, and within certainly the reason for choosing the course, was the practical element and the practice that you get whilst you're learning. But this time next year, if we race ahead, you guys will be pretty much finished, we'll be kind of getting ready to hand in dissertations. So beyond graduation, beyond qualification, how do you see yourselves kind of utilizing the masters, or what difference will it make to you, do you think?
For me, it will make a huge difference to, I suppose, I'll hopefully kind of go more towards that in work than, having maybe the dual role, if that's applicable and I'm able to do that. So it's kind of, instead of being in the same, kind of role that can kind of get a little bit stagnant. So it's been able to upskill and stay within the service and really support the people of why I kind of got into this line of work. And utilize the skills that I've learned has been kind of helpful and continuing to do that. Yeah.
And do you think that that's something that's kind of needed, I suppose, within the service that you work with?
Yeah. So like we've no clinical psychologist or anything on our team. I'm the only person who offers kind of a talk therapy within our service, as a psychiatric service, so it's desperately needed. And I've been involved in the early intervention for psychosis with the BFT and things like that. So I'd be hoping to look to upskill again with the CBT to be kind of go down that line of work as well.
Amazing, very good. So you'll definitely get good use out of it.
Yeah.
Your qualification, great. And how about you, Liz? Do you see things kind of changing for you once you have your master's, or?
I think it'll sort of continue in like the direction that I've been going in the sense that where I'm working at the moment, it's a counselling centre with a CBT focus. So a lot of the clients coming in are looking for CBT, and then the doctors who refer them on also suggest to opt for CBT if it's a good fit for them and the issues that they have. But it'll be, I think for me, like to feel that level of like I say, skill and confidence in being able to do it effectively with people. I'm looking forward to just gaining in that really over time and moving forward with that, and then as I get more as my knowledge increases as well, being able to get into different areas that maybe I haven't got into yet and apply the CBT there. Let's say learning more about, say, the more complex side of things, with OCD, say, and things like that, so taking it sort of into that sort of direction, getting deeper into the specific areas and learning more about those too, so that I can work with a greater number of people, really,
So almost specializing, really, that you're upskilling to get into the heavier bits.
Well, I don't know if I'll specialize, but just sort of become more proficient, let's say, in a range of areas, to be able to apply the CBT skills in those areas too. Yeah. So, yeah.
Excellent. So it's a competency thing, and it sounds like
Yes.
confidence as well
Yes.
in knowing that if somebody was to come through the door with something, like you mentioned OCD there, that you'd feel confident in your competence to work with them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Really good. So given, I suppose, you said about the last year, you both kind of mentioned anxiety disorders in particular, that you enjoyed those in the last year, but looking ahead to the next year and the modules that are on offer for year 2, anything kind of excite you or anything you're looking forward to in particular about year 2?
We're so excited.
Well, I was going to say the third wave. I'm looking forward to getting into that. I like the compassion focused therapy. I did a CPD training in the UK on that with Paul Gilbert a few years ago and really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to getting a bit more into the third wave side of things.
Excellent. Very good. How about you, Shauna?
The third wave and the complex disorders, because the complex disorders are kind of my bread and butter. So it'd be nice to get my more skills in that area and get my teeth really stuck into that.
Definitely. Very good. Yeah, it's a juicy year. It's definitely going to be a juicy year.
Yeah.
Because it will get quite disorder specific, and with the complex as well. Yeah, it's up a level again, isn't it? So, yeah, very good. I'm excited about complex disorders module as well, funnily enough. So it is an exciting one. Definitely, that's great. So if you were to offer any, or say anything to anybody that's maybe contemplating doing this course and is wondering, should I, shouldn't I? Have you any words of advice or any words of wisdom to offer them? Anything you'd like to say?
I would say to just like I was saying before about make space, to make sure you've got space to accommodate. I would say then you can keep the balance, and I think that's a key thing, just to be mindful of that. Yeah, that would probably be my piece of advice.
Okay.
Yeah, mine is if in your own practice that CBT aligns kind of with your personality and with how you want to practice, just do it. You'll find the space. Me and Liz we're very different in that way. Liz is more academic, and I'm like the practice, just doing it and probably think about it afterwards. So yeah, you'll find the space if it'll be worth it. So
good. So can I ask? And it might be a risky one when we're live, but are you glad you signed up to do it?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Is that honest?
That's honest. Yeah.
I think it's well, good timing with the summer. We feel like we're halfway there as well. And
totally. Yeah, the year flew.
Yeah,
it really did. Yeah. No, it's been great.
Yeah, that's great. So if you had your time back, you would do it all over again?
As mad as
definitely.
It sounds,
yes.
Brilliant. That's really good to hear. That's really good. Okay, well, I'm just looking there at the questions, and I think we have answered them all, have we? Unless there's anything else that you want to add to that, guys? No?
I don't think so. Shauna?
Okay. No, I don't think so.
Excellent. Guys, it's been so informative. I honestly, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's your Monday. Today is Monday, isn't it? Yeah. I had a bit of a brain fog moment there for a second. It's your Monday evening. No, I really do hugely appreciate you taking time out to chat this evening and give me all those wonderful answers. And thank you for your dedication and your commitment to the course as well in the last year. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching in and listening in. And if anybody has any questions at any stage, I'm contactable through PCI website. So guys, I will talk to you soon. At that, we will